Welcome back to my channel. My name is David. Today I'm going to show you how to build this amazing and dynamic restaurant website using Next.js. And when you look at this website, it looks like a single page one. So when you scroll down, all the information has been contained on the home page, but actually it's a multiple page website. And let me introduce you to the feature of this one. So when you look at the banner page, at the home section, the navigation is on the top. So when you hover on it, the color changes. And also when you look at the hero section, there's a play button. So once you click on the play button, a video actually pops out that shows the restaurant's introduction video. And on the top corner and also on the menu over here, as we have a book the table button. So either when you click, it'll take you to the booking section of this page. So there are a couple of things that I have designed with a lot of thoughts, and I want to show you that this booking table is one of the areas that we are going to focus in this project, because we are building a full stack project for this one. So you can type in your information. Say for example, you just type in your name, and then you just give them an email, just some random email. This is not a real one. And then you can just key in your phone number, and then you can choose a booking date over here. And then you can also let them know the time that you want to pop in, how many people you have, and leave a message. So once you fill up all the details for the booking, you click on the book table. This will actually send this booking information to the backend, all right? And then pop back with a response that shows you that the booking has been done successfully. So when you look at the backend of this booking, originally we only have one message, but when I refreshed it, you will see the one that we just filled in got pop out from the backend API. That means that our booking request, this information has been successfully posted. So we have done a post request on this area. So in this project, I'm going to show you how to make a post request on the Next.js framework. All right. So that's one of the things I want to highlight for this project. The other one I want to highlight is the front-end skills. So let me refresh this. If we click on one of those navigation buttons, supposedly it should take you to the navigation section. And then we click on About, it takes you to the About. Just pay attention to the color of this navigation fonts. It changes to the theme color of the website. And you can see the home button, the home icon, the theme color goes away. If I click on the menu and the About color changes to white, the menu button changes to yellow. And the same for special, events, chief, gallery, and contact. So what it means is that whichever section you click on, that section will show the theme color, and the remaining one will go back to the original white color. Not only the clicking events works, but also if you scroll up, say for example, now I scroll to the chef section, only the chef section shows the theme color, the remaining navigation fonts all shows the white. I keep scrolling up to the gallery section, only the gallery one shows the theme color, the remaining one goes to white. Alright, so this is kind of a fancy technology for the front end, and I'm going to show you how to manage this scrolling effects to handle the navigation active. Alright, so it's a couple of skills incurred. Other than that, we have also have the chance to see this menu section where you get to have a filter to show different categories of the menu. So once you click on certain category, it'll show that one. Show that category of the menu only. So this is a filter event. And also, once you click on one of those items inside the menu, it'll actually take you to that individual single page. As you can see from the routes, this is localhost 3000/menu/3 because this is the third item. So we are building a dynamic route in this project as well. All right. So now we go back to the home page, go to the menu, and then we try the last one. This one will take you to the last one. We have a specific route for that item as well. So this is the item single page. All right. So I'm going to show you how to do a multiple page design in Next.js for this project. And also, once we go to the gallery, you will see this gallery has this amazing zoom in and zoom out hovering effects. But once you click on one of those images, it actually takes you to the larger screen with all the background stuff get hidden. All right. And you can browse all of the restaurant image over here. And then when you click on any black area, that thing goes away. So I'm going to show you some third-party libraries to handle this in a very smooth way. Okay, so this is pretty much what we have done. For the contact section, we have a map, and also we have a message area. This will allow you to send a post request to the backend, and it's a similar logic as the book table section over here. So we're only going to do one, and you can finalize the other one on your own. So that's pretty much the key function of our restaurant website. So these are also dynamic. So say for example this special, if you click on one of those, the actual content gets to show actually changes. This is another way to do filter. I am going to show you how to build this in our project as well. Alright, couple of things. Not only this one works on the full screen mode. If we turn on the mobile, let's say we turn on the mobile, this one is fully responsible on the mobile. And also if you click on the video button, that one gets to show. And also this is how you can look at the navigation menu on the mobile page. It shrinks down with that hamburger icon on the top. We have also this top bar. We have also our name and brand. So take to our booking table, that one works. So everything looks all nice. This is our menu, looks really, really beautiful even on the mobile side, like the genuine menu of the restaurant with the price on it. So everything works all cool. And also this one has the perfect table validation, the form validation. If you fill in nothing, it actually pops up with an error that asks you to fill the booking details. If you made a mistake while you fill the table, it will also show you the mistake as well. Alright, so that's pretty much all the key functions. And if you're excited about this project, please subscribe my channel and get your code editor opened up. And let's just jump in and do it right now. So to quickly start off a Next.js project, what we're going to do is to open up your terminal on your laptop or computer. And then if you look at the React project website, it tells you that to install the program, now you can type in the npx create next-app at latest. So this is like the key code to build a project. So what we're gonna do is just to type up this line in our terminal, saying npx create next app. At the latest means that you will get the latest version of the Next. So after that, you could just give your project a name, any name you like, but I'm just going to name it restaurant website. So now hit enter. This will start to build a next project for you. It's asking you, do you want to use the TypeScript? Yes, we are going to use TypeScript in this project, by the way. And I hit yes. Are we going to use a link? Yes. Are we going to use Tailwind? Well, again, we're still not going to use Tailwind. And I would let you know why I'm not using Tailwind so far. Because Tailwind is a CSS framework that will allow you to achieve the design in the lower level. But if lower level CSS is what you're looking for, why don't we just use the original CSS? All right, I like to keep things more original. So in that way, it allows you to have a more customization if you like to. But instead of using a Tailwind, we are using Bootstrap for this project. So that's why I don't want to install both, because it'll conflict each other. Do we want to have a source folder? Yes, we do want to have that. Do we want to use the app router recommended? Yes. Do we have a import alias? No. So we're just gonna have everything set up. So this is gonna take a while to build a project for us. And I'm just gonna pause the video, and once it's done, I'll come back to it. Alright, so now the project has been successfully built as it shows. So what we're gonna do is to cd into our project directory, and we on the terminal we're just hitting cd, that means change directory, and you have to key in your project name that you just make up, which is restaurant website. Hit enter. So now you change the directory to that one. You can see this directory name actually changes. And now we're just gonna type in code and a space period to open up this project in our code editor. So now we have it. So I'm just gonna expand this one to make it look bigger. All right, we are in. So now you can see this is the folder structure for a fresh new Next project. We have this node module, all right, that contains all the dependencies this project is going to rely on. And the public folder is the public one that actually shows on the browser. The most important one we're going to look at is this source folder, because inside the source folder we have our source code all stored here. Say for example this page one that actually stores our home page code, and also the global.css actually stored the CSS code for the entire project. This one applies to the entire project. And also we have our layout. The layout file actually contains the layout of the project. It's pretty much like a template, how everything gets wrapped up. So you can change the metadata here, right? So now let me just quickly say that this is going to be a Next.js restaurant website. And now we change it. We have a customized name. A description is okay. It is generated by Next.js. And then down below, we just have to say this is like the typical HTML template that contains the body tag. And inside here, you will have your children. The children is anything you build inside your page, and then it will eventually be injected as a component or a parameter over here. All right. Because we are not using JavaScript, we are using TypeScript for this project. I will do some brief illustration of what TypeScript is during the development process. Okay, so now the next job for us to do is to open up your terminal, control backtick, or on your Windows control backtick. On the Mac is also control backtick to open up this terminal on your code editor, and then we're just gonna run this program for now by typing in npm run dev and hit enter to see if it can be successfully built. So now, because the localhost 3000 is running on my completed project, which is this one. So once we start it off, it will be running on a new localhost 3001. If you have no routes opening, it will be running on the localhost 3000 as original. So we just hold the command key and click on it. It'll take a while. As you can see, the home page of the Next.js has been showing on the browser. Basically means that this initialized project has been built successfully. All right, so that's one thing done. The other thing I want you to do is that to install few dependencies for us to do this project. So over here, click on the plus sign that will allow you to have a new terminal. Once it's open, keep the old one running and do the things in your new terminal. And I want to show you that to see which dependency has been installed or to be installed, we're going to open up this package.json file. This package.json file, you can see, so far we only have a few dependencies, which is React, React DOM, and Next. But these are not sufficient. Other than those, we're going to install a few more. So over here we say npm I for install. So the first thing I'm going to install is the Bootstrap. And the second thing, we're going to install the Bootstrap icon because we can have heaps of icons to be used in this project. So we say Bootstrap -icons, plural. And then we're going to install something called GlightBox. So that's GlightBox. This is going to have you to give you that dynamic animation for image gallery Modal and also the video gallery Modal. Alright, so we install that. And then the next one we're going to have is the Swiper, because we do have quite a few carousels in this project. We're going to achieve all of those carousels purpose by using this third-party library called Swiper.js. Alright, so once we have all of those, you just hit enter. This will allow you to install all of them at one time, which is really handy. So once you've done that, you're going back to your dependency, you'll get to see all of the third-party one that we just key in has been successfully injected here. That means that you have installed them successfully with the version on the side. Alright, so now done the installation. The next part, you can leave this on or you can close this. It doesn't really matter as long as your first one is on. We'll just temporarily shut down this terminal but leave this on so we can see it in full. The next thing I'm going to do to make a bit of a change is this layout, because essentially all the things is going to be wrapped up here in the layout. So what we're going to do is to import those dependencies that we just installed, otherwise we wouldn't be able to use them in the project. So I'm just going to copy and paste in this 3-line of code. First I'm going to import the Bootstrap icon, and then we import the Bootstrap itself, and then we import the GlightBox, which is for the dynamic image and video gallery. Alright, so those are the three things. The next job is to amend the Google font. So far it's using its default font, which is the Inter. But for this project, we're going to use a different font. So I'm just going to replace this one with this code, and we call it the Play Fair display. So we use this one as our font. Since you change this, the code below here is incorrect. So I'm just going to replace that one with our customized font code, which is this one. So we create a new variable called Play Fair, and that one equals to this entire thing, which is tells you what's the subset and what's the variable or what's the weight you're going to have. It ranges from 400 to 900. Alright, so we have all of those done. And then down below over here, you will see how do we inject the Google font into our project. We do it by using this class name. Because we changed the name from Inter to Playfair, so now we have to do in the playfair.class name. That'll help you to change the entire font for this project. Alright, so once we've done that, we should be all good. Just have a quick look at the browser. It looks like the color changes a bit. Just refresh it or hard refresh. Yeah, because we installed the Bootstrap, that'll make the things looks a bit weird, but I'll fix it very soon. And the one last thing is to put in some CDN down the bottom. This is the Bootstrap JavaScript CDN. In the next project, this is like the most convenient way to put it in. It's different from the React project where you can import the JavaScript right above. But this way it won't work in the Next.js project. So we have to manually, not manually, select the traditional way of importing that JavaScript as a CDN script. Alright, so we've done that. Pretty much we have finalized the setup for the layout. And that's all done. The next job is to going back to our global.css. So far you can see all of those CSS has been set up for the original project, which is the Next.js one. We don't need any of those. So what I'm going to do is to delete everything in this page. So make our global.css empty. So once you've done that, you will see this page changes to a pretty purely white one because we have no CSS to control it. And then going back to our page.tsx. TSX means TypeScript, JS means JavaScript. So we are using TypeScript. X stands for React project. Alright. So now in this page, so far we have the original template of this project. But what I want to do is to delete everything we have here in the main tag. Oops. Yeah. So we're just going to delete that, and we're just going to have one single line so far. Just say hello world and save it. Just want to double check to see, since we're not using this tool, we can delete those, make it quite clean and nice. Going back to the browser, as you can see, oops, don't know how to type. Yeah, hello world is sitting on the top corner, and everything looks all okay for me now. All right, so now we have our code ready to start building the next job. And a couple of things I want to mention before we start to create is we'll have multiple folders inside this app folder, and each will have different functions. So the first folder I'm going to create inside the app is a component folder, because we do have multiple components to be built. So we say component, plural, enter. And the second folder, because we are building our home page with multiple sections, and I do want to store those sections into a special folder, so we call that folder sections, and we have that one done. And in this project, we're probably going to have some data to be served on our browser or anywhere. So we create a folder called data, and also we also have a folder called API, because this is going to be a full stack project. Even though we're not going to incur any database, but I am going to show you the backend code as well, how we build a backend API endpoint, and how we're going to fetch data from that endpoint. So it is a full stack project so far. All right, so we have that done, and so far it looks all good. We have the folders that we need, and next thing I'm going to do is to create our components and start to build our page. Just have a think about which is going to be the component that we need to build first on our browser. When you look at the browser, the first thing is going to be the top bar, like the original project. We're going to have this top bar, and also we're going to have this header that contains the brand name, the entire navigation, and also there's a booking button, right? So these are two separate components. The top bar is the first component, and also the header is going to be the second component, and inside the header, which is going to be a navigation component and a booking button. All right. So going back, in our component folder, we are going to build our first one. So going to our component folder, create a new file, and we call it top bar. This one to be capital, and dot, instead of saying JSX like what we did in the React project, here we're going to say TSX, because we are doing a TypeScript project. Hit enter, you will have this new file, and just a very important shortcut for you to save your time. You just type in RFC, and then you can easily create a boilerplate very similar to your page one. So import a React and export the default function with your component name on it, and with the return brackets inside. So to create this boilerplate easily with that shortcut, you just need to go into your installed extension and find out this one, ES7 React Redux React native snippet. Once you install it, you should have that shortcut working for you. So now we create this boilerplate for our component. Just save it, and then we're going to our file folder. Very quickly, we're going to create a new file called topbar.css. Because we are not going to use Tailwind, so we use the original CSS code to handle the looking of our project. And if a lower level customization is what you're targeting at, the original CSS has the lowest level to handle the looking of your website. All right. So somebody said that the Bootstrap is not good. The Tailwind is give you more customization to achieve. But if you really like to customize your website 100% based on what you want, why don't you just use the original CSS? And on top of that, even you use Tailwind, it's still going to be compiled into CSS in the end. It's not a brand new language. It doesn't run on its own. It still have to be compiled into CSS at the end of the day. So we just keep to the original CSS. That will give you a better chance to practice your web developing skills. All right. So top bar CSS, we have that done. And the next job is to import our CSS file back to our component file by saying import / the same folder top bar.css. So now we have these two files combined together, and we know that this CSS file applies purely to this top.bar.tsx component. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing I'm going to do is to show you the differences between a server component and a client component inside the Next project. The Next project comes with two kinds of component. One is the server component, the other one is the client one. The differences between them is that for a server component, all the data or the data mapping or the preparation of the page will be ready at the server side. And once it comes to the browser, it will be rendered straight away without any building. Alternatively, you can create a client component. Basically means that the server still have to send heaps of documents to your browser, and on your browser it starts to build your page because that's a client side. And somebody may ask, when do we use the server component, when do we use the client component? That's a really good question. If you have a lot of client animations or client-side interactions, say for example you want a client to change something or click on something or handle something, that is going to change the state of your component on the client side. If you're going to change the state, you have to use a client component. All right. So, but for example, if you deliver something that is static, the data is there, the client have no interaction with it, just to see it. And in that way, you can use a server component because that will make your website to be built faster and also have a better achievement for the SEO. Okay, so think about the top bar. Do we have any client-side animation? Yes, we do have. If you look at the original project, when we scroll up, just pay attention to that top bar goes away, right, at a certain stage. So we do have a client-side animation based on the scroll position on the vertical side. So to do that, we have to do a client component. So over here, we have to specifically tell Next.js that we are building a client component, not a server one, by saying use client. If you don't say anything, this component will be created by default as a server component. Alright, so every component is by default a server component. But if you tell the computer specifically, this will be a client component. That's the first thing. The second thing, because we will have some client-side animation, and for this one, we're going to have to incur few React hooks. So one is the use state hook, the other one is the use effect hook. And once we've done that, we're pretty much done the setting. The next job is to create our first state variable. We need the scroll position to find out when to hide the top bar. So, all right. So that's why we create a component, a variable called scroll. Initially, we set a value of the scroll to 0 because we're sitting on the top. And whenever the user scroll the page, we're gonna keep recording or keep listening to the scroll behavior until we can find the new scroll position on the vertical side. Okay. And to do that, we need to write a use effect function to listen the user's scroll behavior, like so. So inside the use effect, we're going to add a window at events listener to listen to the scroll behavior. And whenever the scroll behavior changes, we're going to find a new window scroll on the vertical side and reset the local state variable scroll to that new scroll position value. All right, this is the logic. And we know that this function will every time will be run based on the scroll value. Whenever it changes, this one will be run again, so we can keep updating our scroll position. And once we've done that, we are going to build the inside of our component. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy and paste in the code that I prepared for you. So over here, delete this one, give it brackets, and paste it in, save it, and I will show you what I have done. So entirely, that's going to be a div. And the div has ID of top bar and also have a class name. Some of the class name is the Bootstrap default class name. It doesn't mean anything, but in the CSS, but it tells you that I'm going to make the top bar a display flags, alignment center, and a fix on the top. All right, it's pretty straightforward. And this part is like the conditional rendering, which is a dynamic class name. We have to let the computer know that whenever the scroll position is greater than 100, we want to have a new class name added that is called top bar scrolled. So when the top bar is scrolled, when this class name gets added in the CSS page, we're going to hide the top bar. All right. Otherwise, if the scroll position is less than 100, we're just going to say this class name is undefined. Basically means nothing. Okay. So down below is just going to be a very standard thing. This is going to show our telephone number, our working times, like what you see over here. This Monday, this telephone, like those. And going back. Down here is just going to be the English and the Japanese changes. We can swap between the English and Japanese. In this project, I'm not going to show you how to inject the language dependency, but in the future project, I am going to show you how to inject the language dependency libraries that will allow you to switch between different language for your website or project. All right, but so far we'll just leave it there as a demo. All right, this is all cool. And the next thing to do is to put on our topbar.css. And what I will do, I'm just going to copy and paste this topbar.css. So that's the customized top bar controlling. As you can see, when the top dash scroll class name gets added on, we actually have the top position moved to minus 40 pixels. That'll hide it, make it goes away. Okay, so this is how we handle it. Remember this class name. When the scroll position is greater than 100, we give a new class name. When this new class name is on, we're going to have this CSS effect take place. All right, the remaining stuff is just going to be very standard, just to make sure you readjust the paddings and margin and the font size, and nothing really special. Okay, so we've done that. One thing I want to point out is that we do have a slash between these two languages, and that slash is not a hard-coded one. Instead, we achieve it by building a pseudo element before and use the content slash and give it a special color to achieve it. All right, this is how we do it. So once we've done that, we look at our browser, nothing to show. This is what I want to tell you, that you build a component, but you have to link this component to somewhere for it to show on the browser. But before we do so, I do want to have some general settings for our project. Like in global.css, what I'm going to do is to copy and paste in some general setting. So what we're going to do here is that for the body, we're going to give a font family and a background color, and also for the anchor tag, we're going to set it up like this. The hover effect, we're going to give a slightly darker, lighter color. For all of those H1 to H6, the title, we're going to use our same Google font, which is the Play Fair. And then we do want to remove the scroll bar of the page. So I say body scroll bar display none. And down below is just for our sections. We do have some general settings for our sections for the paddings and overflow as well. Okay, nothing really special. So once we've done that, we should be good to go. Now I want you to go to your layout, because to think about where is the best position to put our top bar component. Are we going to put it in our home page? No, because we are building a multiple page website, the home page, sometimes we need to click on some button to go to another page. All right, so if we go to a second page, this home page will go away, disappear on the browser. But even in that situation, we still want to have that top bar to show on the top. All right, so the best position is to use the layout template to put our top bar. So over here, inside our body, just a couple of enter. Inside our body, above that children, because the children will contain the page content, right? Above that is going to show anything that you want to show on any page, on whatever the user click on. All right. The first thing is going to be the top bar. Hit enter. So this one will get injected over here. You can see import top bar from the component top bar, and that is the correct position we are looking at. Okay. So just give a maybe a comment, and we call it import our customized component. All right, so we've done so and save it. So now our top bar is there in the template above the children, and let's just go to that to see if it's there. Yes, it is. As you can see, our top bar is sitting on the top with that language, with that mobile phone, and also our operation time. All good. This hello world is from where? Why is it still there? That is because the hello world is from our homepage, right? This is the content of our homepage, which will be wrapped in our layout inside the children. The children now represents the homepage. Okay, so that's the logic of the Next.js project. So far we've done one component. Let's just close that off. And our next job is to create our header component and also the navigation inside it. So now let's go into our component folder again and create a new file, call it header.tsx. The TS actually really have no major difference from the JavaScript. The major difference is just that you will have a more strict data type. It's more accurate. it'll reduce your code error at runtime. So other than that, everything you have and you can do in JavaScript, you can also do in TypeScript. And also something you can't do, say for example, give you a variable, a data type, if it's a string or the boolean, or if it's going to be an array, you can't define those things in the JavaScript, but here in TypeScript, you are allowed to do so. It's more accurate, that's all, right? No big fancy super difference between the JavaScript and TypeScript, but I do like TypeScript. It's more accurate and it reduces errors as well, all right? And the second file we're going to create is the header.css, and we need to create a boilerplate for that one, RFC, very easy. And then since we will have done the CSS part, we're just going to import it. So we say import header.css. So we import that file, and then these two files are combined together. And the next thing to think about is how we're going to build this header component. If you look at my original project, when you scroll up, just pay attention to over here. Not only the top bar goes away, but also the header goes to the top. Right? The header goes to the top is because we shrink it. And now it has a much larger height, but when we scroll up, the height reduces, and that's why it fits on the top. Okay? This is the animation we have to do. So again, the header also going to be a client component. So at the very top beginning, we'll say use client. Or like a convention, put it simple, whenever you're going to use the use state hook, or the use effect hook, or any front-end animation hooks, and that's going to be the client component. All right, the server component won't work. But if you are rendering the static component that incurs no client animation, no client interaction, you can use the server component. Okay, in this project, I'm going to show you all of those things: the client component, the server component, how to build the different things, what are the key fundamental difference between them. I'm going to show you all of those. So now we have that thing defined. The next thing to do is the same as before. We have to import the use state hook and also the use effect hook, those two hooks. And also we need to record or listen to the scroll behavior because we do have a scrolling animation. And also we're going to have the same use effect function to listen to the scroll behavior and record all the vertical position of the scroll. So once we've done all of those, the next job for us to do is to build our header. So what I'm going to do is to create our header template, and I'm going to build the subcomponents in it. So here we create a wrapper, and we say header dash. So here we're going to give ID, and the ID is going to be header as well. And then after that, we're going to have the class name. This class name is going to be the conditional rendering of the class name. We're missing a curly braces. Yeah, that's done. So just have a look at the class name. Again, it's going to be fixed at the top. Display flex. Everything is going to be aligned vertically in the center. However, we do have this one. When the scroll position is greater than 100, we want this class name to be added to the header, and that is going to be the header scroll. The header scrolls actually allows you to shrink the height of the header. That's why you can see the header gets lifted up from the original design. As you can see, this one scroll beyond 100 and the header gets lifted up a bit. All right, so that's the animation we want to achieve. And the next thing to do is going to create a wrapper for our body of the header. So let's say that we'll have a new div inside it, and that is going to be a div that says container fluid, which take the whole horizontal width of the screen. And then we want to make sure the display flex effect adjust everything vertically in the center, and also horizontally is going to be content between. Right? It's the same as the CSS code. It's just save you a few lines. And after that, we're going to put in our brand title or brand name. For our case, we're going to have a class of logo, and inside it is going to be the anchor tag. The brand name is a restaurant. If you have your customized brand name, you can put it in. And also, somebody want to say that I might have a brand image. Can I put it in over here? Absolutely okay. So I leave it here in comments. If you do have a image logo, you can uncomment this part to put in your image instead of this one. All right, it's gonna be either gonna be a brand name or gonna be a brand logo. All right, so that's all. And the next job I'm going to do is to put on our header.css, so the thing will be looks much nicer. Put in that. So it's a very simple one with a background color for the header, and also we adjusted the border bottom, give them a certain padding. This is the key part. So whenever the header scrolled, class name gets added on, we can see this top is going to be 0. However, originally the top is 40%. This height of the top height is actually equal to the height of our top bar, which is this one. The height of the top bar is 40 pixels. So when this one goes away, the header itself will be lifted up by 40 pixels. That'll take the position of the top bar originally. All right. So that's what it is. And this is the CSS for the logo, really standard. Just make sure you turn the text transform to uppercase, and then that's the logo image if you wanted to. Okay, so very standard stuff. So once we have that, we have a look at our browser now. You can't see the header gets show up again. The reason is because we have to put it into our layout, right? So inside our layout, like so, we put in the header and save it. Just check the above that header has been correctly imported. So now we have two components ready, and looks like we have a runtime error to see undefined reading call. Let's just go back and check it out. It turns out there's nothing wrong with our code. I just refreshed the browser and it shows up. So as you can see now, we have our brand names ready, but we haven't been able to see the navigation and the booking button. That's because we haven't built it yet, but it's there. Okay, so the header is done, all lined up correctly, and the next job for the header is going to build inside our header the navigation and also the booking button. Because we are doing the project in the React way, the ideal way to develop it is to make your code really clean. What I mean by clean is that whenever possible, you just wrap your code into a separate component, because that will allow you to reuse it when it's necessary. And to think about the navigation itself should be an isolated component, and the same for the app button, right? The booking button. So what I'm going to do is create our button first. Inside our component, we say app button.tsx, and then RFC to create a boilerplate. You can close this one for now. And very quickly, we're just going to create a new file called app button.css. And then over here, we're going to link them two together. Import btn.css. All right. So now we have that button component created. The next job is going to create that button. So the button itself is actually quite easy. It's just an anchor tag with some onClick function in it, because when we click on this booking button, it should eventually take us to the booking section, right? So that's the logic of it. So now going back over here, what we're going to do is to put in our component code. Delete this one. And that's going to be our component code. What it's going to take is going to be our variable name, because each button should have a name, and we're going to make this name dynamic, so this component can be reusable. So to have that, we're just going to say name over here, because supposedly this button belongs to the parent component, which is the header, and inside here in the header, we're going to have to define the property name, give the value. Maybe that's going to be a booking a table or whatever, right? So once we have that property defined in the parent component, in the child component, we can consume that property and do the object destructuring, and you can use it here. This is how you make a dynamic button. But the problem is, you can see this underscore with the curvy line underneath, and you don't get to see this in the React project, but you do get to see this in the TypeScript project. If you do in a JavaScript way, it's okay to leave it like that, but we are doing the TypeScript way. The reason is because it's more accurate. You must tell the Next.js what kind of a data that is. And we know that the name of the button is going to be a string. This is how we define the type of the variable inside a TypeScript. All right. And the next thing we can see that this one, we're going to have a function that will allow the user to go to the certain sections. But we haven't built the remaining section yet. So far, I'm just going to create a template for that function. Let's say handle. Oops, it looks like there's a typo. I'll fix that real quick. So this is going to be handle scroll to. We're going to do a arrow function. Like so. And now we know that we have to tell the computer or the Next.js which section you want to go. So here it's going to take one parameter, and that parameter is going to be your section name. All right. So section, and we know that section name is going to be a string. So we put in the data type, and you can see that the underline warning line goes away. Okay. But so far we're just gonna leave this one like so. We're gonna say go to booking a table section. Just leave it like so without doing anything for the function. Later on, when we have finalized the building of the book section, we'll go back to here and finalize this function. Okay, so the app button is done. The next job is going to put on the CSS for it. So let me just go back here, put on the customizer one. Very simple. For the app button, we just give a certain margin, make sure its font color is correct. The border is going to be our theme color, which is a yellow gold one. And then we want to make sure it's uppercase, all of those sort of things. And once we've done that, we are ready to inject this component into our parents component. So here, inside the parent component, what we're going to do is to say import that app button. And then we close this one. As you can see, this one has been successfully imported right over here, but not yet finished, because remember in the child component, it needs a property called name, and we have to tell what name that is for the button. So here we need to assign the property value to the name, and that is going to be, let's see what's the name of it, book a table. Okay, so we'll just type in, it doesn't matter if it's a capitalized or lowercase, and because it will transform it into uppercase anyway. So just say book a table. So once we've done that, we're going back to our project. We can see that thing is there. What it looks like, yeah, just refresh the page, and this one will show up correctly with that beautiful hover effects on. Okay, so now we have our brand logo, a brand name ready, and also our booking button ready. The thing left in the middle is going to be our navigation. To build a nav component, inside our component folder, create a file called nav.tsx, and then at the same time, create a file called nav.css. So going back to our nav, RFC to create that boilerplate, and then import /nav.css, combine these two files together. The building of the nav component is actually quite complicated. It's actually one of the most complicated components in this project, because when you look at the original one that I built, not only this one have this click events. When you click on any one of those, it will take you to that certain section with a name on it, right? That's one of the things. The other one is that the active status of the navigation changes according to the section you go to. If you go to, say for example, this events section, and you will see that the font color of that navigation changes to the yellow gold, and the remaining one all changes to white. So it's quite a bit of an animation for this navigation. But so far, since we haven't built the rest of the sections, we're only going to illustrate all the navigation words on the header. And later on, when we have built the rest of the sections, we'll finalize the building of this project. All right, the building of this component. And we go back to the nav. First thing we have to do is to set up the data for the nav. If you look at it, we have the about, the menu, the home, the special, all of these things. These are the navigation data. All right. So the way to do so is to, inside our data folder, we create a new file, and that is going to be called data.ts. This is not going to be a tsx file because it's only going to be a ts file. It's not a component, it's a data file, right? And then I'm going to copy and paste in the nav data that I already prepared for you. So here we say export constant. nav is going to be an array that contains all the data with the ID property, the name of the navigation, the target. Target means which section it's going to go, and also if it's going to be active one or not. Only the home button, the home navigation, has been set to active by default. The remaining are all non-active, so that's all false, which is a boolean. Alright, so now we have the data, and going back to our nav, the next thing we're going to do is to import that data. So we say import navs, and that is going to import this file from our data, and we've done it. And the next part is going to have a few hooks. One is the use state hook, the other one is the use effect hook. So we have those two things done. So now pretty much we have everything ready for the building. And the next job is going to, since we have the data ready from the nav, we're just going to map it into our nav list item and show it on the browser. So the first thing is to load our nav data into our local state variable called nav list. Copy and paste in. So we set up a local state variable called nav list, and the initial state of that nav data is going to be the data from our data file, and we put it into our local state variable so we can handle it and do some animation to it. Alright, and the next one we're going to do is to do the data mapping for the nav. So what I'm going to do is to copy and paste in the entire nav component in the return. So here I delete this and paste it in. As you can see, it's a nav tag with ID of navbar, and it contains that conditional rendering the class name. Because it's a mobile friendly devices, if it's on the full screen, it doesn't really matter what it looks. If it's on the mobile, this nav navigation should be hidden, and instead we're going to replace it with a hamburger menu, right? This is a hamburger. If you look at the original one, I turn on the mobile, as you can see the navigation goes away and replace it with a hamburger bar, and then we click on it, that navigation shows again, right? So there's going to be a standard view and a mobile view of the navigation. This is how we set it up, using a class name called navbar mobile, right? And then we have to define under what condition this mobile is going to show, under what condition this mobile view is going to be hidden. So we need to set up our second local state variable called open. And basically that means that when we're on a mobile view, we're going to have to handle this toggle effect if it's open or not. If we click on the hamburger bar, we're going to open it, and this nav mobile view is going to show, and then we click again, and that one goes away. So this open state variable is to handle the switch between the appearance and the disappearance of that navigation mobile view. Alright, so we have that local state variable. And how do we handle that? If you look at here, in the hamburger bar, we have the click function that calls handle toggle menu. We're going to use this one to do this job. So over here, down below, it's a constant handle toggle menu equals to, which is going to be an arrow function. So whenever we click on this one, that arrow function is going to reset our open status. So we say set open to the opposite of the open state variable value, right? If it's true, we're going to make it false. If it's false, we're going to make it true. This is how we toggle it. So once we've done that, if we go back, let's see. Oops, I haven't put on the CSS yet. Let me just quickly put on the CSS for that one. For the navigation, quickly put on the CSS. This is going to be the desktop view with the paddings to 0, and also you have to define the list item, give them a certain alignment, and this is going to be the anchor link for each navigation to make them spread out. And also for the icon, you're going to define it with a color. If you want to have some drop down, you can define a drop down, but in our project I just didn't show the drop down thing. And for different view, you're going to have to shrink it and move the position. This is the mobile navigation. We'll have the mobile nav toggle, which is our button down here, this hamburger button. And then this is the one when the nav mobile is shown, and we're going to show the mobile view of the navigation as such, okay, like so. So I show you the entire CSS code, and so you can see how it's done. It's really nothing more complicated. It's just a very simple setting to make it look nicer. So once that's done, let's see if it works. Refresh a bit. Yep, I just realized that we built a nav component, but we haven't imported it into our header yet. That's why it wouldn't show. So my bad. So quickly, we're just gonna import it over here. So above that booking button, we have import our nav component, and then our header is now complete with the icon or the brand name, the navigation, and the booking button. So now if we go back, you will see, well, that thing is there. Refresh a bit. So click on it, you will see this one entirely the mobile view. Click again, that one gets toggled off, toggle on, toggle off, toggle on, toggle off. So all of these things, the toggle on and off, is controlled by the state variable open, because whenever we click on the hamburger menu, the hamburger button, this thing will be set to the opposite of its original value. All right, that's how we handle it. And in the CSS, as you can see, this is the looking of that mobile view initially. All right, so whenever it's click on, this one will get to show on the browser. So we've done that. Going back to our nav, you can see the second thing we have to deal with is the click events. And this one going back, whenever we click on one of those buttons, it should take us to the section, right? So that's one click event. And we deal with it with one function that is called handle scroll to, which is the same as the booking button. I have this spelling mistake, so I change it back. Handle scroll to. So far, we're not going to build this one yet. I just write a empty function there. Later on, when we have finalized all the sections, I'm going to build this one. So handle scroll to equals to an arrow function. That one there. So however, we need to define the kind of the parameters it's going to take, which is going to be our section, and that is going to be a string. So far, we're just going to leave it empty there. So later on, when we've done the sections, I'm going to come back to the navigation to finalize it. But so far, we know that the variable it's going to take is going to be the navigation target. If you look at the data, we know the target is actually the section name, right? The section name of each. So we put in the section name as a parameter, which is a string, into this arrow function, and that arrow function will handle the page scrolling events. Okay, so far is that. There's another one I'm going to do, which is instead of clicking to the section, the user can actually manually scroll to that section. As you can see, once the user gets to the About section, that section font color changes to the yellow gold automatically without any clicking. All right, this is like a scroll event, so we have to deal with it. When the user scroll the page, how do we turn on the active status of that navigation? So there's going to be a third function I'm going to handle. Now I'm just going to give a name to it called handle nav active. Okay, so later on, once we finalize the section building, we're going to deal with the scrolling events, right? So far we're all good. Okay, and that's pretty much what I can think of so far. And also one more thing I want to put in, because later on we're going to deal with the scroll events. So right now I'm going to put in the local scroll state variable to add a window listener to the scroll behavior. Later on, when we have that thing ready, we're going to use the scroll position to match the section area. Whenever the scroll position matches the section area, we're going to turn on the active status of the navigation button. All right, so that's the logic behind it. And also, since we have done that, we're just going to put in the use effect to add a window listener to the scroll behavior and update the scroll position vertically every time we scroll the page. Okay, so now we have done the preparation for the navigation. If we're going back, release this, and now you can see the hover effect is working. Of course, the click event is not working, and the scroll event is not working, but we have that function ready for the future building. Okay, so pretty much so far we have done the navigation and done the header entirely. Our next job is to start to build the official body, which is the hero section firstly of this project. So for the hero section, what we're going to do is inside our section folder, create a new file and call it hero. and that is going to be tsx component. And then the same folder, create a new file called hero CSS, and then we create a boilerplate and import our CSS file to combine these two together. Done. Alright. So, and we know that the hero section eventually is going to be wrapped in our home page. So here, instead of saying hello world, what we're gonna do is to create a new return with empty angle brackets, and inside here we're gonna have our first section imported, and that is going to be our hero, because later on we're gonna have different sections on the same page, and we're gonna list it down. That's why we're gonna wrap them all together as a single component with a empty angle bracket. Right. So once we've done that, if we're going back to our browser, you will see this very tiny hero word at the top corner. That basically means that our hero section has been correctly imported. Okay. So the next job is to start to build, and to think about if it's gonna be a client component or going to be a server component. This one is going to have some animation with the user, because if you look at it, one of the animation is this button. So this button allows you to have that video modal. So once you click on it, you will have this introduction video of this restaurant. So that's going to be an interaction with a client. So what we're going to do is to make it a client component. So back here, we say use client. Save it, and down here we're going to put in our components content inside here. But before we do so, we're going to import that use effect hook, because to achieve that video modal, we're going to rely on a third-party library called GlightBox, and we have installed that GlightBox at the very beginning of the video, which is this one, and now we're going to use it. All right. So the way to use it is going to import that GlightBox like so, and then we're going to use the use effect hook to initialize it. So we create a use effect hook to create a new GlightBox, and we ask the GlightBox to select a element with a class name of .GlightBox. Later on, when we come to the video, we're going to give a class name of the GlightBox, so this one will be collected and the modal effect will show. This is actually a much easier way to collect a modal. Otherwise, you have to do a bunch of things to achieve that effect, and this will make the process a lot more easier. And down below, we're gonna build our hero section. So delete this part and put in our code, save it. So I explain this code. It's gonna have an ID of hero, and it's going to be display flagged along item in the center, and also inside it's going to be in a container. This container contains a row. So you will see that's a container, okay? And the container inside it, we're going to have a row. And inside this row, we're going to have our title of the page and also the subtitle of the entire hero section page. And these two buttons we're going to build very quickly. So come to here, inside our component, we're going to build a button component called hero button, tsx. Enter, and also very quickly hero button.css. Alright, so rfc, and then we're just going to import that CSS file. Done. So we have that button ready. So now I'm just going to build the content of this component. Again, this button is going to have two properties. One is the name of this button, because it could be any name. Say for example here, we have the name our menu, the other one will be book a table. So we want to make the button dynamic and reusable. Okay, so we give a name property. The other one is going to be our target, because if you look at the original project, if you click on the menu, it'll go into the menu section, right? And if you click on the booking, it's going to the booking section. Okay, so it allows you to go to different target with this button. And going back, we're going to give a property called target. And we need to do a object destructuring in a child component, not a parentheses, like so. And then we have to tell them that the data type or the variable type. So for the name, it's going to be a string, and for the target, it's also going to be a string. So like so. So we save that. So now everything has been set up. So the next job is for me to put in the button's anchor tag. The anchor tag itself is very simple, like so. It has a on-click events that allow you to go to different part to handle the scrolling effects. You have to tell the computer which target you go. That's why we set up this property here. And then the other one is the name property. The name property will be shown here as a dynamic name for that button. Alright. For the class, because we want a bit of a space between the menu one and the book one, so I handle it in a very easy way, probably not the best way. If the name contains the book string, we want to have a class name margin start equal to 4. This is the bootstrap margin default setting. So to add a bit of a margin on the left hand side, so give them a bit of a space between two buttons. Otherwise it will be undefined. Okay, so you can do this one either in this easy way or you handle it in the hero button CSS. It doesn't really matter. So this is like the lazy way to handle it. I'll just do it simple. And because we use this function, above that we have to put in this function above that return. So we say const that it's going to be an arrow function, equal to the arrow function, and then inside these brackets we're going to say we need a section name, which is going to be a string. So this will allow us to handle the scrolling effects of the click, right? So we've done that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This is our button. So the next job is to put in the CSS code for our hero button, which is also quite simple. So button hero, we're going to have a font weight of a bit of a thicker, and also the font size of 13 pixels with all of those letter spacing, the border effect, cursor point with the border set to 2 pixels, and our theme color. This is to handle the button hover effect. All right. So once we've done that, these two are combined. And going back to the hero section, we have to import this, otherwise this warning curly line won't go away. So just delete the last letter and tab. This thing will be imported all about. Okay. So once we've done that, if we're going back, you will see these two buttons there. Right. So far the on-click events haven't been enabled yet, but later on we will do it. But if we look at the hero section, it looks pretty ugly because we haven't done a CSS for it. So the next job is to handle the CSS. If you look at the original project, there's a background image of it. So we have to import the project image at once. So where's the best place to import the project image? Somebody say inside the app folder. Actually, in the real project, we want to put all the image in the public folder, because in the public folder it's accessible from the browser routes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is to copy the image folder and put it into our public. So inside the public, we create a folder called assets, and inside assets we create another folder and make it larger called images, and inside images we have all the project images. So far we're going to use this one, which is the hero background image, and later on all the images are stored here. When we come to different sections and pages, we're going to use these images accordingly. All right, it's quite a big project, this one, but you will have a lot of new things to learn. So we close this one, and then we can shrink it down a bit. Going to that hero CSS, I'm going to handle this one. So again, for the entire hero section, we're going to make the width 100%, height 100% of the vertical screen. That's VH stand for, the vertical screen size. And the background we're going to set up to the background image, which is inside our public folder, the assets image, the hero BG. All right, make it top center, and then we're going to give a sort of like a shadow on top of it using a pseudo element. And then the remaining things is just going to be very simple. We're going to set our H1 to a very big font size, and also resize its color, resize its weight. And for the buttons and everything, we just have to give them a certain CSS. So once we've done that, if we're going back here, you will see this thing has been shown up. This play button here, I haven't explained yet. So going back to our hero, it's down here. As you can see, I create a 4-column part specifically for this play button. All of this is for the play button. And inside here it contains an anchor tag. The anchor tag href that tells you the video reference link. You have to put a reference link here, which is a YouTube video, and the class name must contain this one, GlightBox, because remember at the top we have tell the Next.js that we initialize a GlightBox. We use the selector of the class name GlightBox. Once you've done that, the GlightBox will find in your page where is the element that have the class name of the GlightBox, and that one will be picked up and show that modal effect. So this is how we achieve it. Very simple setting, right? It's 100% beginner friendly. You don't have to do a whole lot of CSS settings to achieve this purpose. Okay, I liked it. And then we give a second class name play button, and inside the hero.css, the play button will give a bit of a gradient color, and also we give a pseudo element to make sure that it looks nicer. It's a before pseudo element to make it look nicer. That's why it has that amazing hover effects. So if you want to go through it, you just pause the video and go through it. And once it's hovered, it's just that we have changed the border a bit, give them a transform of the scale. That's why it have a bit of a animation when we hover our mouse on it. Yeah, that's the entire animation I show you. Okay, done. So we're going back to our page. If we hover your mouse on it, you will see this amazing hover effect, like all the circles goes away, zoom in goes away. It looks pretty nice, right? So if we click on this button, you will see this one loading our video and start to play that video automatically. You don't have to click anything. This one is automatically played once you click on the play button. And magically, this video comes from the YouTube. It doesn't have to be the YouTube, as long as this video is available online or available inside your local storage. You give the link, the GlightBox will handle this thing for you. It's really, really handy. Okay, so far we have done our hero section. Somebody said that why don't you do a slider for your background? You can do. In my previous project, I have done the slider. It's like a carousel for the background image for all my projects. But for this one, I just want to make it different. So that's why I made a hero section with only a static background instead of a carousel. Okay, because we have more fancy functions to deal with. Say for example, if we look at the original project, we do have the filter here that allow the user to filter out the specific menu, and here we have a second kind of a filter. So the focus of the project is different from what I did before. It's something new for you to learn. And also we have this swiper here. Okay, even though it's not on the hero section, but we do have a swiper in other sections of the project, and we have a full stack project which enable the user to make the post request to the backend to send a booking information. Okay, the testimonial is also a swiper, and we have this gallery with the glider effect as well. Really, really cool, huh? So there's some more features on. That's why I simplified the design of the hero to make one static, because after all, we have a video play button that allows the user to understand your restaurant business in a more vivid way. All right. So this is what we've done so far. So now the hero section is done. Our next job is to create our first section below the hero, which is the about section. To build the about section, what we're going to do is in the section folder, create a new component file and call it about.tsx. And then also we're going to create a new file called about.css. And over here RFC to create out the boilerplate. Then we say import period / that means the same folder about.css. So we have these two files combined together. The about page is going to be a very standard one because there is no dynamic data for this section. If we look at the original project and we go to about, as you could see, it's quite simple design with on the left hand side, it's just going to be a whole bunch of description of your restaurant. And on the right hand side, it's going to be a restaurant image with some zoom in effect. Alright, and if you look at it carefully, there's a background image sitting behind all of the screen and with some kind of a dark shadow on it. Okay, so there's no dynamic data, so we're just going to hard code all the words in it. If for example, in a section where it has a dynamic data or have some template that need to be repetitively used, we're going to use some API endpoint to fetch data. Like the following section, we're going to do the API endpoint, but this one we're just going to hard code. So going back, I'm going to import the background image for this section which is going to be the about image in the public folder, in the assets, in the image folder, and we can find the about.jpg, which is this one. You can find it over here. And by the way, this data file and also the public image file, I will upload it into the cloud drive and share the link down in the description, so you don't have to worry about this. If you want to code along with me or want to rebuild this project, you can have all of those assets, image, and also the data ready. Okay. And the next job is for me to set up the code for this component. So we just delete this standard one, and inside the parentheses, we just paste in that about. With this one, we have these images. This is a component that belongs to Next.js. This is not a customized component, so we just have to import it from the Next.js image. Import it. Now it's over here. With that, we can access the about image over here, right? It's the same as the image tag of this one. They are the same, but the difference is that this one gives you a bit of more features like lazy loading, all those sort of stuff, right? So you don't have to worry about the when you build a genuine project and in production, the image might load really slow, and that'll affect the user experience. But this one gives you that kind of improvement on the lazy loading, and there are some kind of features as well. Okay. So now we have this about done. In the about.css, I'm just gonna quickly put in the CSS code as well. So the background image is the same in the same folder. We're just gonna arrange the center, and also the background size cover. Also, we set up a pseudo element for the about section, which is the dark shadow. As you can see, this one is pretty dark, that covers the background image. Otherwise, the background image will be so bright. But now we use the pseudo element to cover it. Make sure the transparency is 0.8. And then for the about image and image, we set up the size for it. We give a hover. We give that a pseudo element which do the decoration for the corner, and that is going to be this one. We can see there's 2 yellow corner. Yep. And then after that, we have this pseudo element as well. So on hover, we're just gonna give a bit of a scale. That's how you achieve that zoom in and zoom out effect. All right. And the remaining stuff just gonna be a standard settings for the positions and the font sizes and font weight. Right. Quite standard. You can read it out yourself. That's all. So once we've done this, we're going back to the browser. You will see there's nothing happens. The reason is because we only built the about section, but we haven't got a chance to put it on over here. Okay, so we're back to the page, and now we're going to import that about section. But the hero is separated as an isolated component. All the remaining sections are supposed to be wrapped somewhere. So we use a main tag to wrap the remaining stuff. And inside here, we're just going to import that about and close the angle bracket. So now all the remaining sections is going to be wrapped in the main. The hero is standing alone. Okay, that's the structure. This is the reason why I use a empty angle brackets to wrap everything. So at the end of the day, the entire thing will be returned as a single big object. Okay, so now we're going back. If we reload, we can see that the about section is there. Okay. So it has been successfully rendered on the browser. Right, beautiful. So now you notice something when we scroll down. This header has no problem. It navigates to shrink down and give you that kind of a pop in and pops out, lift up animation effects with no problem. However, what I want to do at this moment is that we're supposed to have a back to top button over here. So when the user scroll deep down on your page, doesn't matter how deep they go, they should have the choice to go back to the top of the page straight away. So to do that, we need to add a back to top button down the corner, right? So let's go to the page, and then in our component, we create a new file called back to top button, and that's going to be a TypeScript component. And also, we create a new file called back to top button CSS, and now we have both. So now let me just RFC to build a boilerplate for that one, and also we're going to import the / back to top button CSS. So now these two files are linked up. The remaining job is just to complete the content of the component. So to build this project, we're going to do some importation of the React hook. One is the use state, the other one is the use effect hook. And we need to know the scroll position, because when the user is on the top of the page, this button should not show. Okay, only when the user scrolls down a bit at a certain level, this button will appear. Okay, so the appearance of this button depends on the scroll position vertically. So we have to do that. We need to set up a local state variable, and we call it a scroll, and we use that use effect hook to listen to the scroll behavior of the page, and then reset that scroll value every time the user scrolls the page. Okay, this is how we achieve that. And also, we need to write a new function that will allow the user to go back to the top of the page, like so. Back to top, which is the arrow function, that will take the user to 0, 0, which is the top of the page. And then the remaining things will just be the button itself. The button itself is built with a anchor tag. Delete this one, brackets, and then save. So unclick on this button, it will take the user back to the top. And also, the appearance of this button depends on the scroll position. When the scroll position is greater than 100, we'll add a new class named active. When it's active, this thing is going to show. All right. So in a CSS file, we're going to have to deal with it like so. So firstly, we'll make the back to top button position fixed, because it needs to sit at the right bottom corner. Initially, it's going to be opacity 0. Basically means that we need to make it hidden. Whenever the user scroll down beyond the 100, we're going to add a new class named active and make it visible, opacity 1. That's how you achieved it. All right. So now let's going back to our project, refresh the page, scroll down a bit. Oops, I forgot to inject this component into our template. So far it's not showing. That is because we built this component, but we haven't got a chance to import them. Just on a second thought, where is the best place to import this component? Should we import it on the page? No. This back to top button should appear on every single page, not just the home page. So the best position to import it is going to be our layout. So over here, below the children, and we say back to top button, auto importation, and check the buff is there. And now if you're going back, let's see, it pops up with an error, component that needs use state. I believe that I have imported. Let me just check. Yeah, I have just realized what the mistake is. This is what I tell you. All the component has been built or created as a server component by default. But since we are using the front-end state hook and also the use effect hook, this has to be the client component. Therefore, what we're going to do is to tell the Next.js, the one that I'm building is a client component, by saying use client. Once we've done that, this thing gets reloaded. Everything should be working now. If we scroll down a bit, as you can see, that back to top button appear. Take us back to the top, it goes away. All right, scroll down, appear, take us back to the top, it goes away. Beautiful. Okay, we have done one important animation. Let's just keep doing the project. The next one, let's have a look at the original one. It's supposed to be the why ask section. All right, this is give the user some reading information, why you choose our restaurant, and give you a couple of reasons. These are all Lorem words. Once you know how to build this template, if you want to make it for production for the real restaurant, you can just replace the content of your own restaurant. This one is really handy. It's ready for using. Okay. So let's now just build this why ask section. Going back to the editor, close off the few things that we have already done, like so. And then in the sections, create a new file called why_ask tsx, and then also create a new file called why_ask css. So now rfc, let's just create that boilerplate first, and then we import that css file. Right, these two files are combined together. For the why_ask section, how are we going to build it? Do we start it from the section itself? Let's have a look at the original one. there are 3 similar items inside this section. Each can have the same template, which contains a number, and also the title, and also a brief description. Alright, what we call this kind of design, it is a card, alright, a website card. So what we're going to do is that for this section, we're going to build a child component, which is called YAskCard, and also we're going to fetch data from the backend API, and then we're going to render that data into different cards, do a data mapping. This is the design logic. So when going back, instead of building the parent component straight away, what we're going to do is going back to our component folder and create a file called YAskCard tsx.rfce to create out a boilerplate. In this boilerplate, we're going to think about this card is going to take the data mapping, and all the data is going to be mapped into each individual card. So it's supposed to have one property that contains all the card information, and we can name it item, and we have to let the Next.js know, or the TypeScript know, that this item is supposed to be an object, a TypeScript object, how many properties it have, and what's the variable type of each property's value. Okay, so ideally we can set it up like this. It's going to be an item, which is going to be an object, and it must have an ID for each object, and ID is supposed to be a number, and also it's supposed to have a title, and the title is supposed to be in a string, and also it should have a let's say a content, which is the brief description, and the content is supposed to be in a string as well. Let's see if I have made any typo here. It doesn't look like. Oops, this was supposed to be a colon, and now the error goes away. It's a semicolon. Saved it. So what this part does is that we know that in the child component we're going to take a item object as a property, and this property is going to be set up in the parent component when we do the data mapping. And then the differences between the JavaScript and TypeScript is that in TypeScript, not only you will define a variable, but also you have to, after declaring it, you have to tell Next.js or TypeScript what kind of variable that is. Alright, it's going to be an object that contains 3 properties. The first property ID is going to be a number, second property title, and the third property content are going to be string. Alright, we have to do it in this way. So now we have the structure. The next job is going to set up the template. The template is quite simple and obvious. So over here, like so. So now if we read it, we can see that this is going to be a full column card, and also it's going to have a box to wrap everything. And the first line is going to be in the span, start with the 0, and then because we have the 0, 1, 2, 3, if you have 3 items in total, this one's supposed to dynamically show the ID, and plus the 0, you will have the 0, 1. When the second one comes in, the ID is 2, that will be 0, 2. And this is going to be the title, the last one going to be the content. Quite straightforward template, right, for the card. And the next job is to do the data mapping. However, if we do the data mapping straight away over here, the question is, where the data come from? Does the data come from our static files or coming from the backend? We're not going to connecting to a database in this project, but I will show you how to build that backend routes, different kind of a routes handler like the get routes, the post routes, get single routes, all those things in this project. All right. So let's just mimic a database inside our data file that you have built before. Let me create a new TypeScript array. This TypeScript array is for the YAsk component, which contains 3 objects, the first one, second one, and the third one. And now we're just going to present this one, making a mock API endpoint inside Next.js to render this on our API endpoint. Okay, and the way to do so is that, remember at the beginning of the video, we have created a folder called API, and that API folder is a default way for Next.js to recognize your API endpoint. You have to do in this structure. Okay, so now in the API folder, let's create a new subfolder called a new subfolder called yauth. And inside this yauth, let's create a new file called route.ts. You have to name route.ts. This is not a customized name. This is like a given name recognized by Next.js. If you have that API folder, and then you have that yauth, and you have the routes inside the yauth, and the Next.js will know there's going to be an endpoint inside API, and they will find that routes file to read your endpoint. Okay, this is like a standard structure. So over here, we now have that yauth, we now have that routes. So inside that routes, we're going to think about how do we get that data. First, let's import the yauth data from our data folder, which is this one we just created. Okay, let's import it over here. And the second thing is that we're going to write a asynchronous function to deal with that get handler, like so. So it's going to be export asynchronous function get. This is the default way in Next.js of handling a get request. And then we're going to return a response.json. So basically means that we're going to turn that TypeScript object and array into a JSON array that contains the JSON objects. Okay, if you've done things correctly, you should be able to see this get handler on your endpoint. Let me try that. So let's go to our browser, open up a new tag, and say maybe localhost 3000/API/ys. Pay attention to these routes. This is going to be our API endpoints routes. Okay, and it's supposed to show the the JSON array. Enter. Well, I have done it successfully. As you could see, here is the content with that ID, with that title, and also the content of each card. All right. So the domain name /API and the routes name is like the naming convention for the API endpoint. And the reason why we could achieve this is because we set up the folder structure in this way. The Next.js will find the API folder, and inside it, you are going to build different subfolder for different get target. Okay. Say for example, if you have a 5 or 6 get requests that you want to make to the endpoint, you have to build 5 or 6 folder, and in each folder you will have the routes file. The routes file contains all the functions. You can write the get request here, the post request, the put request, and the patch request, and also the delete request. All the requests can be made over here. All right. So now we have built the API endpoint using the Next.js way, and the next job for us to do, close this off, and same for this, is inside this yauth, we're going to make the request, a get request to this API endpoint and fetch the data, right? Because we don't have a database, that's why we use a static data file to serve the endpoint. In the real project, here, instead of import that static file here, you can connect to the database here at a get request. Okay, and then the data is supposed to be fetched from your database. Either it's going to be SQL or going to be MongoDB. You're just going to set up a database connection and make a, say for example, using SQL, you just make an SQL select, and then you can fetch data from the SQL database, and then you have the database ready and turn it into a JSON. Okay, it's the same logic, but for this simple project, I'm trying to make this things a bit of a simple to understand. I use the static data to serve the backend endpoint. So now, back here, all we're gonna do is to do a data fetching, and the second thing to think about, is this going to be a server component or going to be a client component? Have a look at the original one. Is there any user interaction that the user need to type in something or click on something or manage something for this area? No. It's just going to be a presentation of static information to the user for them to read. The user is not going to handle anything over this section. So I can make it a server component. That means we don't have to type use client at the top. We can just build our code straight away. The first thing to do is to write a asynchronous function to make that get request, like so. Asynchronous function get yauth data. Inside here, we're going to use the await. We fetch, this is a TypeScript fetch function, the built-in one. We fetch from this API endpoint, and that is this one. we fetch from there because we just built the endpoint ourselves. Once we have that, we store the promise into the response, and then we turn it into JavaScript by saying response.json. This will get you a response and turn it into a JavaScript. Alright, so once we've done that, we can use this asynchronous function inside the y_ask component. However, since we are using the asynchronous, we have to define this function as asynchronous as well. So the y_ask now has been asynchronous. The next thing is to get that data, like so. So we await to get the function to call that get y_ask data function and await it. Once we have everything ready, we're going to store it in the item array. This colon array means that after we declaring this item variable, we have to define its data type. This is going to be an array. Okay, this is a TypeScript syntax. And the beauty with this method is that if you look at it, there's no need to import the useState hook or the useEffect hook like how we traditionally fetch data from the backend. You can just simply write the asynchronous function and the data fetching is done. That's really easy because all these things will be handled at the server side instead of the client side, which greatly increase your efficiency. Alright, that's one thing. The second thing is that we're going to build the body of our component over here and also do the data mapping. We have done our cards, and we're going to use this card when we map this data because all the data must be mapped into the cards. So what we're going to do here is say we create a section first, and that's going to be a section. So now we have that, and inside this section what we're going to do is to create a container. So now we have the bootstrap container to wrap everything, and then we're going to do the data mapping. The data mapping is going to be in a row, like so. So inside this row, because we have the array item fetched from the backend endpoint, we're now going to check if this one is ready. If it's ready, we're going to check if the length is greater than 0. Basically means that it has objects in it. And we move to the next one. We're going to map it into our y_ask card, which is the component we just built over here. As you can see here, we pass in the item as the property, and the value of the item is also the item that has been mapped in. Alright, so now we just have to import this from the component folder over here. So everything should be done now. Okay, so very, very beautifully handled with all the things fetched. Let's just move back to the front end to see, do we have that? Hang on. I forgot to import this component as well. We built that y_ask component. We haven't put it here in the page, in the home page. So one last step is to put it below the about. So now it's going to be the y_ask section. And now we go back. As you can see, the thing is there, right? It looks pretty standard because we haven't put on the CSS. Once I've done it, it should be really beautiful. So the next job is going to the y_ask CSS. And then I'm going to put in the code there, like so. So for the y_ask, we have a box that's going to define the padding of the box and also give the box a shadow. Make sure you have that transition effect. And also for each span, the title, you just make sure you give them the correct font size and the font weight and the font color. It's really simple code. You can just go through it yourself. So once you've done that, and then you're going back, you will see this one looks much, much better. But if you compare this one with the original one, you will see that we are missing this section title, which is over here. That is because I haven't built it yet. So going back to our y_ask, inside this container, I also want to build a section title. But do we build a title straight away over here, or do we gonna wrap it into a separate component? If you go back to the original, you will find every title, this one, and the one below it, and also the one below it, looks all similar in terms of the format. It has a section title and also a subtitle, except the subtitle looks much bigger, right? With a dash over there. So they all have the same looking. That basically means this section title component supposed to be reused. That's why we need to separate them out into a separate component. So inside the component folder, let's create a new file called section title.tsx, enter, and then create a new file called section title CSS. So here we're going to say rfc dot, and we're going to import that section title as well of the CSS file. Done. Okay. So of this section title, we're going to build a template over here and create its property. Whenever you want to create a new section title, you just need to tell the Next.js what's your section name, what's your subtitle. That'll make things a lot easier. Okay. So because we have two dynamic data to be built, here in the property value, we're supposed to have a title, and also we should have a subtitle. So we have those two. It has that warning on the line. It's because you haven't defined the data type of them. So here you're going to say for the title, it's going to be a string, and for that subtitle, it's going to be a string as well. As soon as you define all of those, that error line goes away. And the next thing is going to build our component. So instead of showing this, I delete that, put in this. It's just going to be a section title div that wraps the title and the subtitle. Very, very simple. Okay. So now we have done this. In the title CSS, what we're going to do is that we put in the code here. We make sure the section title has a padding, and also make sure you define the h2 one, and that is going to be this the title one. And the font size is going to be pretty small. The font weight is going to be 500, and make sure it's capitalized. And for the h2, which is the one underneath the subtitle, that one is going to be larger, much larger, and also give a background color and all of those things. Okay. So once we've done that, we know that we have the section title component ready. And here in the YRs, instead of writing it, we can just use that component straight away by saying section title, import it, and you can see it's being imported right above. And the reason why it's showing the error line is because this subtitle is supposed to take two properties, right? We have to define this property in the parent component by saying title equals to. So this one, let's have a look what it is. A title should be YRs. Okay, so we're just gonna going back to say YRs. Oops, should be inside a quotation. If I could type, and then the subtitle, and let's see what the subtitle is. Why choose our restaurant? I'm just going to copy that and going back, paste it over here. So now we have our title and the subtitle are all ready. If you're going back to our current project, which is this one, just refresh it a bit, you can see that thing comes in. Why choose our restaurant? Why us? Okay, so this title can be really, really dynamic. Doesn't matter how many sections you have, that section title component is absolutely reusable through the entire project. This is the beauty with the React or Next.js project. Okay. So now we're done the YR section, and in this section, just a quick wrap up. We have shown you that how to build a API endpoint in the Next.js way. Okay. And then how we're going to make a data fetching from the backend endpoint, and also this is building it like a server component using that asynchronous function way. All right, this is one way of fetching data and mapping the data. Later on, I'm going to show you another way of fetching the data. Just to think, what if the section is not a server component? The section can be the client component. Say for example, the one below, this one. It actually incurs interactions with the clients, right? The client is allowed to click on something, and the state of the component actually changes. So in this situation, we cannot build it as a server component. We have to build it as a client component. I'm going to show you the manual section right now.